Hello, we have a 24-inch Ego snowblower. I bought it in 2022. This is the self-propelled model SNT 2400. And I ran it into a stump and the drive wheels quit working right then. So I'm starting to take it apart. I think the problem is right here in this gear case. Haven't gotten that far quite yet. Lots of these T20 fasteners. And the first thing I did is pull the clip out of the axle here. Pull the wheel off. And oops, this didn't come off with it the first time I did it. And I could get all the bolts except for one. So this one here, I drilled a small hole in it. Looks like a 1/4-inch hole just to get to this fastener here. To be continued. So I tried to get this more accessible just by taking one bolt out of this. Thought maybe I could rotate this around, but that didn't work. It won't release there. So my next plan here is to pull this whole shaft out. And it looks like right here is a little clip. So I'm going to try to hook into that clip, pull it out, and see if I can slide this whole drive shaft out the other side. I should also show you that it's turning right now, but it really has no force. It just slips. So I think maybe there's a shear pin in there that's broken. I don't know yet. Even though it was turning here, it doesn't when you have wheels on it on the ground. So I finally got that axle snap ring out. It was so tiny I couldn't even get it with a snap ring tool. I had to use a couple of these picks to get it out, and I might have even bent it, I can't tell yet. Finally got it though, and then the pin dropped out of the axle. Now that I got the snap ring off, I'm going to pull this pin out. And looks like I'm going to have a... Oh, it did come out. Wow, look at that. Amazing. Let's see what happens next. So this shaft moved a little ways, but then this whole gear assembly started moving with it. So I think either the gear's hung up in there or the shear pin, whatever's in there. So I am going to have to take it apart further. Take out this other side. And I'm going to take this piece off too. Give me some room to get a stubby little screwdriver in all of these. And this bolt here has so much Loctite on it, I couldn't even get it with my drill. And I'm using this socket as a bit of a cheater bar. And I'm finally getting it to crack loose and move. Well, I was trying to minimize how much of this I take apart, but this little Torx, actually it's a Phillips bit screw down here, is so hard to get to. I decided to take this shaft out. And these are not just set screws, they go all the way through the shaft. But you can get them out. You can get them out, and then the shaft will slide out. Watch so you don't lose this little washer right here. So I took out these 7 screws with my stubby Phillips, and it's separating just fine. Plenty of grease inside. And now I'm going to go looking for a broken shear pin here or here. It took a bit to find. There's a rectangle keyway right there that looks like it's sheared off. Right there. Now I gotta find where it engages the shaft. What's going on? So I made a bit of a mistake earlier on when I tried to pound this gear shaft out of this, I don't know, gear hub transmission, because it ended up driving this bearing over the top of the keyway. So now I'm trying to tap this bearing over to the left to get it off the keyway. I'm figuring out what's going on here. I got the bearing slid back off the sheared keyway, and I'll dig it out with this pick and see what I can find at the hardware store. Looks like an odd shape. So to get parts from Ego, you go to powerplusparts.com, powerplusparts.com. The diagrams are not great, very blurry, you can't zoom in, and they will not break it down as far as that keyway. They want to instead sell me the entire self-propelled unit for $205. So I won't be doing that. I will make a keyway if I have to, because it's such an odd oval shape. So I found a keyway at the hardware store. It's 5/32 size, square. You can also get it at McMaster Car under part number 92530A105. But that cost me about 22 bucks versus $1 at the hardware store. And I'm going to have to whittle it down to a length of about 293, but it has rounded edges also. So I'm going to use my power sander. So I tried the easy way using a angle cutter, wire cutter for the keyway, but that didn't work. It's too strong. And also it didn't work on the hardware store version or the stainless steel version. So I'm going to use the stainless steel version so it doesn't rust down there. And I'm going to use this hacksaw. After you cut it off, make sure you don't burn yourself. It'll be hot. Since the setups are typically the hard part, I made 3 of them in case I shear off another key in this snowblower. And now I suppose you could shape it with a file if you had to, and vice grips, needle nose vice grips. I'm lucky to have a powered sander here, so that's what I'm going to do. So here's the 3 keyways I made. Notice they are not the perfect shape. So they're not going to be as strong as the original was, which is a little bothersome. So if you find some that are the correct shape, let me know. I'd be happy to hear it. I couldn't find any on the internet. So I did have to push this bearing back in here below flush, just with my fingers. And then this slides in there as a spacer. And then you can slide the gear over the new keyway. And I'll probably give it a little tap too. Should be completely covering that key. So I just slid this all back on and got these gears to mesh. And you can see the keyway is about flush in there with the gear. I see lots of grease hidden in these holes, which is kind of useless, so I'm going to drag it out and get it where it'll do some good in the gears. And then we push this all back together and screw it back on. Okay, another little surprise here during reassembly. To get this to engage back into here, since it's guarded on both sides, I had to take out the 3 bolts that hold this in, just to get some angle on the whole deal. 3 bolts out here. And then you can pivot it into position and bolt that back up. And also I had to slide this whole shaft out, almost all the way out. So I'm fairly nervous about losing this tiny little snap ring, which is going to go on here. So I put this white towel underneath it so I don't drop it and lose it forever. I'm also going to pack some grease around there so it's sticky and it's not likely to go shooting away. And I'm going to try a angled needle nose pliers on this. So the snap ring went on okay, and I just slid this wheel on here so we can do a quick check before we get even deeper into reassembly. It works. It works now with tension on the wheel, resistance on the wheel where it didn't before. I couldn't show you that while holding the camera. So the job's finished. It works. With all the learning and dinking around, I probably put 4 hours into this thing, but at least it didn't cost me $205. And I probably should have mentioned at the beginning to take the batteries out before you start, just for safety reasons. So I hope it goes a little faster for you.